This morning, we're going to be talking about basic self-awareness principles. So, this is really important to understand, right? You have to know yourself. You might have heard this quote, know thyself, right? Know thyself. It's really, really important that you know yourself, especially if you're wanting to improve your mental health, if you're wanting to, get happier, get healthier, overcome anxiety, overcome your depression. One of the best things that you can do for yourself is to learn more about yourself, right? It's to know yourself, to know thyself. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about basic self-awareness principles, right? Now, this is really, really interesting stuff. And it's stuff that I've learned over a decade of self-inquiry and self-reflection. I remember back when I was 17 years old, I had a really overactive mind. I was very busy in my mind. And I remember thinking to myself, if I have to live my whole life like this, it's going to be hell. It's going to be literal hell. Like I can't do it. I don't think I could live my whole life with how my mind was at that point in my life because it was just so out of control. I felt so disconnected from myself. I didn't know how to control my emotions. I didn't know how to control my thoughts. I didn't know how to control my behaviors and myself. I basically didn't know how to control myself. I didn't know myself. I didn't know who I was, right? And so I started this journey of learning about myself, right? And I don't know how I got onto this path, to be honest. My environment around me at the time was not supportive of self-development, right? I didn't necessarily have friends around me that were into self-development. It wasn't really something that was talked about in my family or anything like that. Like self-development wasn't really a thing that was in my close proximity or my environment. But I somehow got myself into it, right? And it started when I read a blog post that told me if I would spend some time meditating, it would help me become like a superhuman. It would help me develop superhuman capabilities. And I was like a 17-year-old kid. I was like, that sounds pretty good, right? I want to do that. I want to become a superhuman. So I started meditating. And it's funny though, because at the time I was smoking a lot of weed. Like I was smoking a lot of weed and I was drinking. I was a 17-year-old kid, right? I was just being a bit of a rat bag. And I think the reason that I found that blog post that taught me how to meditate or that told me I should meditate was because I was looking up like lots of conspiracy theory stuff. Like I was smoking weed and I was thinking differently. I was thinking a bit outside the box and I was looking at conspiracy theory stuff, right? This was back in probably would have been 2010 or 2011. I think it was also near like 2012. I don't know if you guys remember, but like 2012 there was that like whole end of the world thing. So I was probably looking up articles around those kinds of things and spirituality and stuff like that. And then I found this blog post about meditation. Started meditating. Really the beginning point of my whole life changing. Like it's like before my life, before that happened, I was living a different life. After I started meditating, yeah, I basically switched myself onto a new trajectory, into a whole new life, right? And since then, that was nearly 15 years ago now. I've continued to grow and develop and grow and develop and know myself at deeper and deeper levels. So back then, I still didn't really know myself. I was getting to know myself, right? The word meditate means to become familiar with. So I was spending all this time in meditation, becoming more and more familiar with myself, right? And over the course of the last 15 years, right, I've gotten so familiar with myself, so connected to myself, so self-aware. Like I really feel like I know myself very deeply right now. And it's all because of this journey of meditation and what I learned through that journey. And in today's session, I'm going to teach you some of the very core basic principles that you need to know about yourself that I've learned over the last 15 years. And this has helped me to become totally free of anxiety, right? People say, whenever I talk with new coaching clients, they say, oh, I don't know if I'll ever be able to be totally free of anxiety, or I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully eliminate it. And you're right, there's always going to be a sense of this, like sometimes you might get a bit anxious about something. Anxiety is essentially a fear, right? It's you're feeling the emotion of fear, and it's being kind of worked up until it's like an emotional fear, a mental fear, and sometimes even physical, right? You feel it in your body as a physical fear as well, right? So it's fear. Now, fear is a normal emotion. You're always going to feel that. But when I say I'm free from anxiety, it's like I can now feel fear and it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really bother me at all, right? So this is where we want to get to a point where you can feel your emotions, but you have the capacity and you are equipped to deal with your emotions. So you become the master of your thoughts and your emotions as opposed to being the slave to your thoughts and emotions. That's the point that we want to get to. That's the point that I can confidently say I have reached, and I have helped hundreds of others reach that point. It is 100% possible. If you are a human being, this is the journey for you. This is the inner journey of learning to know yourself, to get to a point where you are the master of yourself, where you are you are self-governing, right? That's what it means to be the master of something, is to govern something, right? You want to be able to govern yourself, to control yourself, to master your thoughts and your emotions. And the stuff that I'm going to teach you today, I believe, will help you incredibly on that journey. So I'm going to share my whiteboard and we're going to get stuck into it. We're going to go into some basic self-awareness principles. All right, let me just have a sip of my coffee while this is coming up. Cool. All right. So this is something that I call self codes, right? Self codes, but basically that's just a fancy kind of little phrase that I've made up for basic self-awareness principles, right? So just give me a 111 in the chat box if you can see this all right. If you're on this call with me right now, can you see this okay? Just let me know. You can just type a 111 into the chat box. So there's a chat box at the bottom there. You just type 111. I'll know that you can see this all good. Awesome. Thank you. Sweet. All right. So basic self-awareness principles, the self codes, right? What's a code? It's a program that you'll run off, or if we have a code on a computer or a code on software, right? It's essentially the program or the code that runs the system, that runs the app, that runs the computer, that runs the program, right? So we have codes within ourselves, right? Your brain is not like a computer. It is a computer. It's the most intelligent, like supercomputer known to man inside your head, right? It's a crazy, crazy, crazy piece of machine, right? That runs on codes and programs and systems, right? And so I'm going to basically break down one of those systems that I've recognized, and I've called it the self codes, but it's just some basic self-awareness principles. Now, the first thing that you've got to understand is that, let's call it awareness, right? The first thing that you have, right, within yourself is awareness or consciousness, right? So let's just call this number one, because this is the primary thing that you have. You have awareness and you have consciousness. If you didn't have awareness or you didn't have your consciousness, you wouldn't experience anything else. You'd be dead, right? If you didn't have consciousness, if you weren't conscious or aware of what was happening, you would be either dead or like a potato, right? Like in a hospital bed, like just potatoed. So this is the first thing that you have, and it's the most important thing that you have. It's your awareness and your consciousness, right? Now, this will all make sense why I'm talking about this in a second, but I just want to drive home. This is the most important thing, and this is actually the primary thing that you have. Everything else that I'm about to talk about today, your thoughts, your emotions, and everything else comes secondary to this. If you didn't have your awareness and your consciousness, you wouldn't have thoughts and emotions, right? Now, our awareness and our consciousness is essentially how we receive. It's a bit too big for my liking. It's like information / experience. That's a bit big, but at least you guys can see it. Okay, so we receive information and experience from our environment. Like we receive information and we have experiences through our awareness. So like this is also your, it's like your senses and perception. It's all the same kind of stuff, right? Why it's still that anyway. Information, experience, senses, and perception. So your awareness is really made up of your five or six senses, right? Whichever one you want to go for. You're seeing things, you're hearing things, you're touching things, you're smelling things. That's your sensory perception, right? Your senses. You're receiving information from the environment through your senses, through your awareness. This is your consciousness. You're sensing things. You're perceiving things. That's how you're interacting with the world, and you're taking in information and experience. Cool. Hope that makes sense for you guys so far. Right. That's the first thing that happens. We have our senses, we have our awareness, we have our consciousness. This is how we receive information and experience from the environment. Cool. Super interesting. Right? People don't usually think about this stuff. Next thing that happens is then we have thoughts, right? Thoughts and beliefs, right? Slash meaning. So what happens is we have this experience of whatever it is that we're experiencing. We're aware of something happening, right? You're aware of me talking right now. You sense it, you see it through your eyes, you hear it through your ears. And then what's happening is you're creating thoughts and beliefs and meaning about what I'm saying, for example, right? Or let's say, I know Kylie was just I was just speaking to Kylie before we, dived into this, and Kylie said, I said, how's your morning? She said, oh, not the best, right? I don't actually know what happened, but from this perspective, you've had an experience this morning, something's happened, you've woken up and you've become aware, and then you've had experiences and you've sensed things, you've heard things, you've seen things, and then you've created a story about what happened, and it's a bad story, or like, oh, it's not the best, right? So what you've done is you've added a story. This is the secondary part. You had the experience, but then you added thoughts, beliefs, meaning, and a story to what happened. You made it mean something. Whatever happened this morning, you gave it some meaning. You gave it a thought. You started believing something about it, right? Second thing that happens. So we go from just this general awareness, this open awareness of what we're experiencing and sensing. And the next thing that we do, and then this is also kind of exclusive to humans, we make it mean something. We think it means something. We add belief to it. We add story to it. That's the second thing that happens, right? Within yourself. This is self-awareness, remember? So the first thing is just we have our awareness. The second thing is we make our awareness mean something. We add thoughts to it. Third thing, and we start feeling something, right? Now we're feeling an emotion, right? Now we're feeling this is a good thing, this is a bad thing, whatever. I'm actually just going to change this. Yeah. So we have the awareness, we add a thought, and then but depending on what that thought is, we're going to feel something different. So if you think my morning was good, then you're going to have an associated emotional state of goodness, something good, positive feeling, happiness, maybe gratitude. If you think my morning was bad, and that's the story that you assign to it, then you feel bad. You feel maybe upset, frustrated, whatever else. So your thought then feeds into your feeling, right? And it's actually like another way that I like to look at it. This primary thing here, number one, is the spirit, right? Number two, the thoughts and beliefs is the mind. And number three, now we're going down into the body, right? So it's like this spirit, let's just say, is at the top, and that feeds down into the mind, and then the mind feeds down into the body, right? Spirit, open awareness, whatever you want to call it, consciousness, mystery. We don't know how that's there, right? comes down. And then we have the level of our mind where we start creating thoughts and belief and story and meaning and all that kind of stuff. That's happening kind of in our head here. And then that feeds down into our body, emotions and feelings. Right. Now, the emotions and the feelings are actually happening at the back of your brain, right? Around the reptilian brain. It's like the hippocampus, the amygdala, all that kind of stuff. It kind of sits down the back of the brain. But still, your conscious thought is happening at the top of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, neocortex, that kind of area. So it's still your awareness, your senses are coming in from outside or around, coming into your prefrontal cortex, into your brain, right? You're thinking about it consciously in the front of your brain, sending signals back to the back of your brain, down towards your body, right? In the back of your brain, which is then affecting your emotions and your feelings, right? Now, what also happens at the same time is this starts to affect your nervous system, right? Some people might say that it's actually more like this, right? It's your nervous system first, and then your emotions and your feelings, right? Either or, doesn't really matter too much. So, for example, and this is still in your body, right? So your nervous system is comprised of your brain and your spine, and there's a whole bunch of nerve endings that come out from your brain and your spine into your body. So it's still like this spirit, mind, body, right? Now, with the nervous system, we've got the fight or flight, or the rest and digest. So just to give you an example quickly of what this looks like. If you have a thought, let's say you have an experience, right? And you have an experience this morning of something happening. Just I'm not sure. And it could be anything, right? Maybe you spilt your coffee, right? And your thought becomes, oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I spilt my coffee. Or oh fuck, now I need to clean up. I'm in a rush. I don't have enough time, right? Maybe you're meant to be somewhere. So you're starting to create a story that spilling the coffee is a really, really bad thing, and you don't have enough time to clean it up. Because of that thought is then going to start to affect your nervous system. You're going to go into a response based off your thought. If your thought is, I don't have enough time to clean up the coffee, and this is a really bad thing, and I'm running out of time, your nervous system is going to respond. Your stress and adrenaline is going to go up, right? You're going to move into the fight or flight mode. And now you're going to be really like fast and kind of anxious and, moving quickly. However, if you weren't in a rush and you just said, oh, okay, I spilled my coffee, not a big deal, I'll make myself another one. And if that was the story that you had about spilling the coffee, you would be able to stay in a more regulated and balanced state. You'd be able to stay in that rest and digest mode, right? You'd be like, oh, okay, I spilled my coffee. I just have to clean it up and I'll make another one. Not a big deal. Different nervous system state, and also you're going to have different emotions and feelings. One of those ones, if you spill the coffee and it's a big deal, angry, frustrated, all the rest of it, right? If you spill the coffee and you don't make it mean anything that big, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now I'm feeling calm. I'm feeling peaceful, right? At the emotional level. Now, this also starts to affect our actions and behaviors, right? Our emotions and our feelings start to affect our actions and our behaviors. The person who spilt the coffee and is calm about it will probably just, go and grab a cloth and clean it up and not make any more mess. They'll probably be calm. They'll be able to just easily do that, right? Whereas a person who's more anxious, fight or flight, like moving quickly, they might really be really frustrated as they go to clean up, and they might be really fast moving and they might knock something else over, a glass or something, and because they're moving too fast, they're too quick, right? They're not calm enough, so they make another mistake, right? That's the actions and behaviors that are being driven by the emotional state. If you're frustrated, you're acting differently. If you're calm, you're acting differently, right? And that essentially will lead to results and outcomes, right? So these are some basic self-awareness principles, right? Now, the problem with most people have is that they try to change this and this. So when it comes to change, like self-development or changing something in your life, right? This is what most people do. And most people, they try to change their actions and behaviors and their results and their outcomes. That's where most people try to change things. But that's stupid. Right? That's not the best thing to do. And you can let's just take a second to reflect on maybe sometime in your life where you've tried to do that. You've tried to just change your actions and behaviors, or you've tried to change something, that you're doing. You've tried to get another result, and you've tried to do something differently to get different outcomes. And you've tried different methods. Maybe you want to get healthy. Like, okay, I'll just use the example of someone with mental health issues, with anxiety. So people I talk to, they say, I've tried healthy eating, I've tried seeing a therapist, I've tried seeing a psychologist, I've tried seeing, I've tried this medication, I've tried this other thing, I've tried nutrition, right? They've tried all of these different things and it's not working, right? So they've tried to change their actions and behaviors, but they're still getting the same result. They're stuck in a recurring pattern or a recurring loop, right? They're trying to change their actions, they're trying to change their behaviors. It's not working. Right? They want to get new results. They want to get outcomes. It's not working. They're just stuck. It's this loop around and again, and loop of anxiety. Same thinking, right? Same feelings again and again and again. It's because they're trying to change the actions and behaviors when what they should be trying to change is this. We want to start at a higher level, right? So when you try to change your actions and behaviors, you're trying to change your body and the most basic stuff, which actually comes last. What we really want to do for change, and this is why mindset work is so important, is smart people change this, right? Change the way that you think, change your awareness, change your perspective, right? Your mind and your spirit. Change your thoughts, your beliefs, your awareness, your consciousness, change your perception. Because when you change your perception, you change your consciousness, you change your belief systems, you change your stories, you change the meaning that you assign things, your programs. It has a trickle down effect through the nervous system, through the emotions, through the feelings, and then to the actions and behaviors. So if you try to take different actions and behaviors, but you're still in a shit emotional state, or if you're still thinking really negative thoughts, it's going to be a lot harder to change, right? What we work on in Mind Launch, right, in the coaching program that I run, is changing your consciousness, changing your thoughts, and changing your beliefs, right? And when I say changing your consciousness, what I'm talking about is we're developing a different level of consciousness, like a higher level of consciousness, higher levels of self-awareness. Most people think that they are self-aware, but they're really not, right? Or they're not self-aware enough. And there is a scale of like how self-aware are you, right? How quickly can you become present and pick yourself up when you're getting into a negative spiral, right? How quickly can you change your perception of what's happening if needed, right? How quickly can you rise up into a higher level of self-awareness? How quickly can you change your thoughts and beliefs? How quickly can you change the meaning that you're assigning to things and the stories that you've got in your head? Right? Are you even aware of the stories that you're currently got in your head? Most people think that they're aware, but they don't realize that the life that they're living right now is 100% based off stories and programs that they already have in their head from childhood that they probably don't even know about. That's your program. That's the code that you're running off. It's built in from childhood. And if you haven't done any work around your mindset and the inner work, you probably don't even know what's running your life. You probably know that you're not living the life that you want to be living, but you haven't really gone deep into like, well, why is it like this? That's self-awareness. That's deeper self-awareness. So this is what we work on changing. We change the awareness and the consciousness. We develop different levels of awareness. We change our perception. We change our beliefs, our stories, and our meaning and our thoughts. And that has a trickle down effect. Then we start changing the nervous system, right? We implement different habits to change the nervous system, right? And that starts to change our emotional state, right? People ask, how do you change your emotional state, right? It's through habits and consistency and routine and new stories and new beliefs and prioritizing our energetic state and also our consciousness. And when you do that, you start at that higher level, it trickles down. Everything trickles down, and then you start feeling good, and then you start taking different actions, and you start behaving in a different way. You start getting different results and outcomes. So this is smart people work on that, their spirit and their mind. That's a higher level, right? Not smart people, right? Dumb people. I'm going to just say it. Try to just change their actions and behaviors. Just try to change the results and the outcomes. You know, that's just pushing shit uphill. That's what that is. You don't want to do that because it's just going to be hard work, right? So how do we do that? How do we actually change those things? This is what I'm going to finish off with. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a method for how we actually do this, right? So we're going to move over a little bit. I call this the mind launch method. This is one of the first things that I teach people when they join the coaching program, right? It starts like this, right? There's a circle here. There's a circle here. There's a circle here. There's a circle up here. And there's a circle down here. Okay. So the mind launch method, right? The first thing we have over here is your thoughts, right? Thoughts. And then over here, we have feelings or emotions, you could call them, right? So we change your thoughts, which then changes your feelings, right? When you have a thought and a feeling together, it creates a new belief. Just think about religion, right? People in religions, they have a thought, they believe in some kind of God, right? Depending on what religion we're talking about. And that idea, it's just an idea. They just think that there's a God, right? And so they just have this idea that there's some kind of God, right? And then they develop the feeling about it, right? They feel strongly that their God is the God, right? So if you're in Islam, you feel strongly that Allah is the God, right? If you're in Christianity, you feel strongly that Jesus is the savior, right? So you think it and then you feel it and it becomes a belief. So it's a thought and an emotion together creates a belief. Now, there's one little circle that I forgot here, right? I'm just going to put it here, see if I can maybe change this, move this one over this way, and move this one over this way. All right, so thoughts, feelings, belief. Right, that's how you create a new belief. You want to create a new belief, you got to have a thought, and then you got to charge it up with some kind of emotion, right? Which you can control. You can develop new beliefs. And then what happens is there's a little part of your brain which is called the RAS, reticular activating system. Now that picks up your beliefs. It picks up whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're believing. Your reticular activating system will pick it up and will search for it in the environment, right? And then I'm just going to I'm just going to draw, there's a positive, right? And here's a negative, right? So what happens is if you have positive beliefs, your reticular activating system will pick them up and it will look for positive confirmation of your beliefs. Whereas if you have negative beliefs, that will be picked up, right? So this is all happening at the level of the mind, right? You've got a thought about something, you feel strongly about it, it becomes a belief. That belief gets fed into your reticular activating system. And what happens in your reticular activating system is you scan your environment, right? And you look for confirmation that your belief is true. So it's very hard to convince a Christian that God's not real and that Jesus isn't the savior, because everything in their world points towards it. Yes, he is. And this is true, this belief, because in their head, they've got the belief and they are constantly seeing confirmation of it. Like everything that happens is like a message from God, right? Potentially for these people, right? And then they're going to church every Sunday and they're getting it confirmed again and again and again. And probably their community is confirming again and again, God is real. Jesus is our savior, right? Again and again and again. They're seeing it everywhere. It's constantly being confirmed. But a more basic example is if you're looking around your room and look for something blue, and you probably see blue things, right? Blue, 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 blue. But now if I ask you to look around your room and see something green, oh, now I see the green thing, right? I didn't see the green thing before. I only saw the blue thing. And then when I changed and I started to think about the green thing, then I saw the green thing, right? So your brain is always looking for the confirmation of what you're thinking and believing. So we do two things in our mind launch method. We teach meditation for self-awareness, right? Presence and consciousness. Because like I said before, right, we want to change that. That's the first part. And one of the problems people have with meditation, which is why it can be helpful to get a coach or a teacher, is people go and they get on the apps like Calm and Headspace and they try meditation, but they just don't really know what the fuck they're doing, right? And they don't have any guidance and they're wondering if they're doing it right. This is why it's good to have a teacher, right? Because I can tell you if you're doing it right or not. I can teach you, right? And the second part is journaling, because this is how we reprogram, right? The subconscious mind, right? Thoughts, beliefs, etc. So this is the mind launch method. We change the thoughts, we change the feelings, we change the beliefs. So first thing we do is we become present through our meditation practice. We connect with a higher level of awareness, a higher level of consciousness, and we actually start to change our brainwave states. Most people are living in the beta brainwave state most of the time, which is a very stressed and anxious brainwave state. In meditation, you can go down to the alpha state and even the theta brainwave state. When you're in the alpha and theta brainwave states, your mind is more coherent. It's also more open and it's more receptive to new ideas and to new insights and stuff like that. So in meditation, we're learning how to change your brainwave state to shift your consciousness and to develop a higher level of self-awareness or a deeper level of self-awareness so that you can really know yourself. And then the second thing that we do is we do some journaling, right? And we got some very specific processes for journaling, which we dive into around this, changing thoughts, changing feelings, changing beliefs, right? Developing new evidence of positive belief systems. And then we drill them home all the time, every day. That's just the first part as well. That's like literally the first thing that we do. Once we do that, what you're going to see is that usually you're going to start having triggers coming up. You're going to start having, things bothering you, like the old subconscious stories will try to claw in and they'll try to stick around. People call this the loop or the pattern. You're experiencing the same thing over and over again. The old subconscious story has got its claws in you. So when you actively start to change, it will rear its head, right? So when you start doing something like this, right, this, basic self-awareness, and then actually implementing change with the mind launch method, what happens is you will then start to experience the old self coming back, right? So I can kind of speak into this myself because I've experienced this. Like I said at the start of this video, I started meditating when I was 17. I didn't become an enlightened guru when I was 17, right? When I was 24, I had a huge so like 6 or 7 years after I started meditating, this was back in probably 2017. I had a big problem with drinking. Right. There's an old subconscious story within me around, alcoholism, and that was very prevalent in my family and still is actually. And that kind of had its claws in me, right? And so I had to do a lot of work on that, and I still had to do a lot of emotional healing work and resolving some of my past experiences and changing my subconscious stories around alcohol and around myself, in my relationship with that. Right. So that was a big one. And then even more recently being, married and with a family now, young family. My wife's a stay-at-home mum. I'm the sole income provider, dealing with different frustrations around money, right? Different anxieties around money, right? Different triggers around money. That's been a thing that I've also worked on. So when you make the conscious effort to become a better version of yourself and to develop yourself and to know yourself, it's a journey and you will continue to go deeper and deeper and deeper, right? But if you continue to show up for yourself and you stay committed to the process and you trust that there is a version of you that is the master of your own life, then you'd start to develop the confidence that you can just handle whatever life throws at you. And that's my goal for you guys, right? That's what I want you to get to, that point where you feel like you've developed total mastery over your life, over your thoughts, over your emotions. When you're having triggers come up, you can handle them, you can deal with them. It's not a problem, right? And so that's really the point that we want to get to, right? You've got mastery over your mindset, right? Your life is where you want it to be. You feel happy, like you're satisfied with where you're at. You feel healthy within your body, right? You feel confident within your body's own ability to like heal itself and regenerate itself and be performing at its optimal state. That's what we want, right? That version of you exists, I promise. Right. So if you want more help with any of this stuff, then what I would suggest is to come into the coaching program. In the coaching program, we have a much clearer roadmap for you, right? Over the next 6 months, we can really start to shift everything for you in your life. There's a clear roadmap, goes through step by step by step. Some of the stuff we've talked about today, and then even deeper. You've got a community there. You've got access to more coaching calls with me. You've got me in your pocket. You've got the step-by-step system. And if you're struggling with this kind of stuff, that is the best way to actually just go, let's make some change. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to the website. You can send me a message directly. I'll send you all the details that you need to know. And yeah, that's the best way that we can help. So thanks for being here with me today, guys. And I hope that was helpful. I'll see you next week.